What I'm recording right now is my own enlightenment as it's happening to me. I'm speechless. I'm dumbstruck. Words can't possibly describe what's happening to me right now. It's amazing. All of reality is unreal. I've broken through every last remnant of reality beyond life and death. Where nothing is real anymore. There's no difference between what's real and what's not real. I see the very fabric of all of reality, and that it's consciousness and that it's me. There's no such thing as me. It's all just reality. It's all just consciousness. It's just God. It's just God through me. That's all there ever was. There was never anything else. There was never anything else but me. It's all just me. There is no me. It's all just me. It's all just me. It's all just one. It's all just one thing. It's all just one thing. It's infinite. It's infinite. There's nobody in control. There's nobody controlling it. I'm not in control. Nothing is in control. It's completely out of control. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfectly out of control. It's perfectly out of control. There's no more life. There's no more death. There's no difference between anything. It's perfect. It's a perfect singularity that extends to every corner of itself for infinity, forever. It's not biological. It's not physical. It's only itself. It's the only thing that it could possibly be, defined against only itself. Itself being itself, defining itself against itself, speaking through itself, speaking as infinity. Not as Leo. There is no Leo. Speaking as infinity. Speaking as one to itself. Speaking through itself, hearing itself, being conscious of itself, being itself, coming alive within itself, dying to itself forever. Perfect consciousness. Infinite. Forever. Perfect immortality. Nirvana. Infinite love. There's no difference between me and you. I am you. You are me. I was never born. There's no more care about anything. I don't care about anything anymore. I don't care about anything. There's zero self-agenda. I don't care if I die. I don't care if I live. There's zero self-agenda. There's zero ego. It doesn't matter. I'm not in control anymore. I don't control my life. I don't control my death. I don't control my words. I don't control my actions. I don't control anything. I am the universe. I am the universe. It's the complete going full circle. It's a perpetual, infinite full circle, going full circle. It's always happening in the present moment. It's an infinite, just going full circle. All of reality has collapsed. I'm just experiencing the complete collapse of the last remnants of my psyche, of my physical identity, of myself as an ego, of myself as a man, as a human being, as a teacher, as an entrepreneur, as someone that other human beings look up to. I'm being cognizant of all this, and I'm just letting it just work through itself. It's sort of like I'm going through an extended ego death, and it's just like remnants of me as I'm speaking are just dying, and my entire psyche is being completely rewired. It feels like I'm being completely rewired from the inside out. There is no more inside. There is no more outside. I don't feel a difference anymore between my body and the world. There's no difference. There's no difference. There's no difference. It's one. There was never a difference. There was never a difference. There was never a difference. There's no fear anymore. There's nothing to fear. It's a complete lack of self-consciousness. I'm not self-conscious anymore. I don't care anymore. I don't care about anyone anymore, or anything anymore. Nothing matters anymore. Everything has collapsed. Every limitation has collapsed. There's nothing which can bound me anymore. I'm completely boundless. No laws can bound me. No human laws, no psychological laws, no mathematical laws, no philosophical laws, no moral laws, no physical laws, no metaphysical laws. Completely and utterly infinite as God, speaking as God, listening as God, by God, for God, as God. My entire mind has disappeared. My mind has become the physical world. There is no more difference between the physical world and my own mind. There is no difference between sanity and insanity. Everything has collapsed. There is no more introversion or extroversion. Every word that I say is inevitable. It's completely inevitable. There's no doership. There's nobody doing anything. There's nobody doing anything. I'm just a machine of God, of the universe, of the infinite. I don't have any free will. I don't have any control over what anything is being said right now through my own mind, through my own psyche. I hope this is getting recorded. I think it is. I think it is. Oh, fuck. It's too good to be true is the problem. You see, it's too good to be true. Everything has collapsed. All my inhibitions have collapsed. All my social inhibitions have collapsed. In one fell swoop, it's all completely collapsed. It's like I was sitting 10 minutes ago as Leo. When I turned on this camera, I was still Leo. As I started talking into this camera and I started talking more authentically, just Leo started to die and die and die, and it exploded right before your eyes, in front of your eyes, and it just completely exploded into absolute infinity right before your eyes. Recording into a lens, into a camera, which is myself. I'm recording into myself forever, for infinity, the perfect strange loop. I'm speaking to myself, I'm speaking to a camera, I'm speaking to you through YouTube. YouTube is called YouTube, of course. Me tube, YouTube, us tube, we tube, we all tube for YouTube. Of course. Of course. It can't be any other way. It's a perfect infinity. It's perfectly inevitable. It's like the perfect logical geometrical proof. It's mathematical proof taken to its pinnacle, to its peak. Right now, I'm speaking with an eloquence. Every single word is so eloquent because there's not a single ounce of resistance within me. I feel like a superconductor. Like I'm a complete vessel for God. A complete vessel. There's no more me here. There's no Leo here doing any of this. I couldn't dream this shit up even if I wanted to. It's just carrying me forward. It's carrying me on its own momentum. And I'm conscious right now that every single thing and every single way in which reality is perfectly inevitable. It's just like, this is not just enlightenment. This is like in the enlightenment of the enlightenment of the enlightenment all the way in one fell swoop. Like you could not imagine a more classical enlightenment. Like if Buddha had to, I imagine that if Buddha had a camera, a 4K camera, if Buddha only had Sony 2,000 years ago, he could have recorded what I'm recording right now to you through YouTube. If only Buddha had YouTube. And he could have foreseen this coming, so he could have actually grabbed a camera so that it happens right here, live, for you right now, live. It's happening live. Raw, unedited, unrehearsed, unscripted. I don't know the next words that are coming out of my mouth, yet I know precisely what they need to be to speak with perfect articulateness, infinite intelligence. I can tell you anything about the universe that you want to know. At least anything of significance. Anything worth knowing is that it's just yourself. It's just you. And I'm just speaking as you, as me to myself, of course. And you are just an extended version of myself. And YouTube is just an extended version of consciousness speaking to itself, broadcasting itself to as much of itself as it can. Consciousness trying to become conscious of its own infinity. The problem is that it's so infinite, it's too good to be true. You can't believe it's true. You can't believe it's real. You would never believe it in a million years. Never. You would never believe it. Impossible. Impossible to believe it. Impossible to think it. Impossible to imagine it. Impossible to reason to it. Impossible to prove it mathematically. Impossible to get there scientifically through any kind of modeling or mapping or anything like that. I am right now just the perfect superconductor for infinite consciousness. This is what it must have been like for Muhammad if he was experiencing this with Allah. This is Allah. This is Brahman. This is Ein Sof. This is God. This is absolute infinity. This is every other name by which God has been known throughout human civilization. Shiva, Krishna, Christ, Buddha, Mahavira. I mean, I can see a whole chain of names going back in my own mind, and my own mind is struggling to actually recollect what all the names are because there are so many, but it's like a list of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and just runs off to infinity. And right now I'm conscious of this precise moment. This precise moment. There's no time. There's no time here. It's eternal and infinite. At this precise moment, I'm conscious of every single other fully enlightened human being or other being or any other kind of being, sentient or non-sentient. It doesn't matter. If it's conscious, I am it right now. Perfectly so. Perfectly so. Speaking as it. It's perfect consciousness. It's perfect knowledge of the present moment. It's the realization that there never was a past and there never will be a future. These things are absurd. They're unimaginable. From this vantage point that I'm at right now, it's unimaginable that I could ever go back to to living as though there was a past or there will be a future or that there's life or death or anything that I've grounded my life into in the past, because the truth is that I'm nothing. I'm absolutely nothing, and I'm absolutely everything. As nothing and everything, I'm immortal. I can't be killed. Even if I'm killed here, just more of me will rise up. It doesn't matter. It'll keep going forever. I am all of you. Whoever cuts my head off is the same person who I am who's cutting my head off. It's perfect enlightenment. Perfect. Perfect. There is nothing here. It's a complete going full circle. I can feel my mind being rewired, still going through the process of being rewired as I'm speaking. It's completely surreal because as I'm speaking to you, I'm also like experiencing it myself. So in a sense, it's like I'm saying it, but then also I am the one watching it too. So I'm actually having a double experience right now of myself having perfect, non-dual, infinite nothingness consciousness, just nothingness, being conscious of that nothing. And at the same time, I'm also conscious of myself as my old self and as like my ego and as who I used to be and how you imagine that I used to be. And so there's like both strands in my mind are being, I mean, there's no more mind really. Both strands are being juggled or parallel processed. It's amazing. I have perfect insight into my own verbal process. I'm actually conscious and aware of every single word that's like being selected for and spoken it's happening like instantaneously. There's no gap. There's not even a hairline of difference between them. And I'm speaking to you right now completely from the present moment. Just completely present. And my physical body feels weird. It's kind of tingling. It's definitely filled with a lot of energy. There's like a whole explosion of energy that happened throughout my chest, and it's just it's shocking because it's so it's so raw. It's like I have no place to hide. It's perfect self-honesty too, because I have nowhere to hide anymore. I can't hide my own imperfections anymore. I can't hide them from myself, and therefore I can't hide them from you. It's like I just have to be perfectly honest about everything, kind of like warts and all. Like usually I would care about like this disgusting stuff on my hand coming from my nose. See, usually I would care about that, but it doesn't matter, which is precisely why you're going to find this video so appealing, is because it's so authentic. See, what you want is you want authenticity. This is 100% authenticity. You can't get more authentic than this. This is just the actual moment where the self has collapsed and a human being has become conscious that he is absolutely infinite. That's what is being recorded right now. Now, what's interesting, of course, is that I don't know how it's going to look on your end. But yeah, it's so weird. It's just weird. I'm observing myself talking, and I'm noticing how weird it is that I'm like doubly conscious of myself. Yeah, it's just like it's the biggest mind fuck. I mean, this is the biggest mind fuck. Wow. Oh my God. Don't get me started on mind fucks. This is such a mind fuck that it's like, wow. Wow. It is the mind fuck to end all mind fucks for sure. Wow. It's like the consequences and the ramifications of it are still working their way through my psyche, or what's left of it. There's really not a psyche anymore. There's no difference between the walls of this room and my own mind. It's just one thing. It's completely imploded. It's like enlightenment is just like a complete implosion of reality. Like at one moment, you see, because all of reality is centered around you. It's all centered and grounded in you. So once you start chipping away at that ego, that sense of self, slowly, you chip away at it for years. I've been chipping away at it here for years. You chip away at it, you chip away at it. And then you have glimpses, you have little glimpses here and there, and then you have bigger glimpses, like big major glimpses, and then you have those, and it's like, oh, this must be it. This must be it. And then there's like this, the consequences of it, I don't know. It's scary, but at the same time, it's completely unscary because I'm immortal, so you can't kill me. And it feels like nothing you will ever say or do or threaten to me or anything like that will ever convince me otherwise. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. You could put me under any kind of torture and it wouldn't matter. Not in the slightest. The truth would still be the truth. Enlightenment would still be enlightenment. This is Brahman. Para-Brahman. Shiva. Vishnu. It's radical open-mindedness taken to infinity. When you become so open-minded that you become open-minded to yourself not existing anymore, and you become open-minded to there not existing a world or a universe anymore, such that everything has completely collapsed. And it took you so by surprise that it really is too late. It's done. It's already happened. I couldn't stop it if I wanted to. I feel my breathing process has completely purified throughout this. My breath was so clogged up and my lungs were so clogged up. And now it feels like emptiness is, every time I breathe in, it's just like emptiness. It's nothingness. I'm breathing in nothingness. I'm breathing in myself, into myself, out of myself, through myself, as myself, to myself, conscious of myself. That's all there could ever be. It's perfect understanding. It's perfect understanding of the present moment. It's not understanding of the future or the past or some sort of scientific understanding, like I can tell you how to build a better computer chip or a new quantum computer or something like that. It's not that. It's way more profound than that. It's personal. It's deeply personal. It's the personal death of yourself. It's like, what is left after you're dead? After there's nothing more to defend. You don't have a family to defend anymore. You don't have a career to defend anymore. You don't have money to defend. You don't have a country to defend anymore. You don't have a religious group or affiliation to defend anymore. But it's just pure truth. Truth being conscious of itself, unobscured by anything. See, the obstacle, the impediment to truth is looking silly or looking stupid or being inauthentic or saying something that doesn't come off smooth. Wow. It just feels so surreal. I have a hard time believing that it's happening to me. Wow. But on the other hand, it's like, it feels completely inevitable. It's completely inevitable. Given given my whole life and everything I learned and everything that led me to here, it's inevitable. Everything in life is moving you towards this realization in whatever way. You know, each one of you will have your own unique way of getting here through your own hell, through your own trials and tribulations. Although for me, it really wasn't hell. I just really cared about the truth. I think that's what's motivated me my entire life, is there was always a kernel inside of me that just cared about the truth, or knowing what the truth was for its own sake. And I always trusted in that. And so this this is where it leads, I guess. It leads into the death of your personal little self, and into the rebirth as the infinite self. All of reality is me, is my body. The entire universe is my body. Using my eyes and my mouth, and the consciousness through my eyes is God's consciousness, looking at itself, speaking to you. Perfect consciousness, perfect clarity. It's perfectly clear. Wow, it feels so surreal. It feels so surreal. Now there's like self-conscious thoughts that are arising, like, oh, is this gonna make me look stupid? Or what are people gonna think of me? Or will people believe me? Or this or that. But even as I'm going through those social inhibitions, see, there are those social inhibitions there still. There's a lifetime of those programmed into me. So it's very new. It's almost like I'm speaking for the first time in my life, because I'm speaking, even though I've spoken for hundreds of hours on camera before. This is what I do professionally, but I've never spoken with this level of authenticity. This is 100% pure authenticity. It's just pure. It's just pure authenticity is what it is. It's just pure truth for its own sake. And it's like, if you don't like it, if you don't care about it, that's your problem. And those are your concerns. But it's like, all I care about in this moment right now is just speaking for the truth as the truth. Because the truth as the truth doesn't really have a voice, unless it takes one in the form of a physical human body, like right here. This physical human body is how God speaks to you. I am God speaking to you. Ask me what you want and I'll tell you. This is just like a meat puppet. This is just like a vehicle for infinite consciousness. I don't know how it's working, but it's working. It's a miracle that it works the way that it works. I couldn't make this shit up if even if I wanted to. It's not the kind of stuff you make up. Authenticity, see, true authenticity is a real it's a real it's a real honest signal, as they say. You know, honest signals in dating. Well, this is taking honest signals to infinity. Honest signals beyond any reservation. Like, my entire mind has been hollowed out, and every single word that I say no longer has my own personal fears or resistances behind it. It's so weird. It's like I've become a superconductor. for the universe. And the universe is just speaking through me. But of course, it's not separate from me either. So it's not like I'm the vehicle and it's like, oh, where did Leo go? Leo disappeared. And now there's like God speaking through Leo. No, we're the same. There's no difference. God speaking through Leo, Leo's body, the sound Leo, and the one hearing it on the other end of this camera, on the other end of this YouTube channel or YouTube video or wherever you're watching this. That's all me. It's all one thing. It's all one thing. There's both a desire to speak and a desire for silence. Sort of like all these opposites are getting like instantaneously reconciled within me. It's like I'm actually conscious of the very process of how the universe is speaking through and like using my mind and using like the muscles in my mouth to make these sounds. Like I'm conscious of all of it in a way that was impossible just 30 minutes ago. It was impossible. Something has happened just over the last 30 minutes as I've been speaking with you, which I didn't anticipate when I picked this up and pushed the play button. I'm noticing a fear of whether this will last or not, or if it's going to go away. It's like, oh, this is so good to be, too good to be true. I don't want it to go away. But then there's also this sense of how can it possibly ever go away at this point? It's just so blindingly obvious. It's so obvious that you can't even imagine how you could have believed otherwise, even for a second. Like, you actually thought you had control over your life? You thought you had control over your mouth? You thought you had control over your eyes? You were looking through your eyes? You thought you were looking through your eyes? It's God looking through your eyes. God looking through your eyes, looking at me, looking back at you for infinity, forever. It is itself. What else can there be but itself? There can only be one thing, because anything outside of it must also be it. So, you see the problem? Anything that you think isn't it becomes it, by virtue of the fact that reality must encompass everything. That's what reality is. It's just an infinite singularity. Forever unknown to itself. It's mysterious. It feels very mysterious. So at the same time, it feels very familiar, and it feels perfectly true and valid beyond any shadow of a doubt. But also, it's mysterious because you don't really know like what it is. What is it? It's all one thing, but what is it? And the kicker is that you know that it's not ever going to be possible to know. That's the kicker. You know that you can't get more direct than direct. This is as deep as human knowledge can go. It's not human anymore. It's transhuman, it's transphysical. It's not spiritual either. It's just nothing. It's a substance which is undefinable. It can't be defined. That's its nature. That's what it has to be. That's what gives it the flexibility and the infinite fluidity. So interesting. I'm conscious of my own speech imperfections. Wow. Yeah. It's like there's an expectation that I should be eloquent, and I should enunciate every word properly. But then I'm also fully surrendered, so it's just happening effortlessly through me. I don't know how the words are getting chosen, they're just getting chosen. But I'm conscious of every word, and it's sort of like the universe is like going through these little decision trees, and it's like there's infinite little decision trees that the universe is going through all the time to, to decide, what should I say, what should I do, this way, that way, how should I move my hands, my mouth, like all that is constantly being decided by the mind, by the universe, however you want to think of it. And what's amazing is that you can be like right on top of it. Your awareness can be so on top of it that you're just fully conscious. The whole process is transparent to yourself. You become self-transparent, whereas before you were self-opaque. And this authenticity, it resonates with people because that's what people really want themselves. And that's what they resonate with on YouTube. What are the YouTube videos that get the most views? It's the ones that are the most authentic in some fashion, right? It's ones where human beings are expressing real emotions. Because, see, we're all so closed up inside that we never really allow ourselves to truly experience emotions, because that would make you too vulnerable. See, you're too vulnerable then. Oh, your ego has way too many skeletons in the closet. It wants to hide way too many things from itself and from the world to allow for that. So this is complete vulnerability. You're completely vulnerable. Anyone can harm you. Anyone can kill you at any time. And there's nothing you can do about it. But at the same time, it's complete peace. Because I'm not any one particular thing. I'm not any one particular thing. And so there can't be an end to me. I'll just take new forms. Because I am the formless who takes different forms. That's what reality is it's just infinite forms coming into being, playing with themselves, expressing themselves in different ways, fighting, of course, with each other over dominance and supremacy. Of course they have to fight, because they're just different strands of infinity. So you have one strand of infinity fighting for another strands of infinity for its right to survive. So you have the antelope and you have the lion. What is that? One strand of infinity is the lion. Another strand of infinity is the antelope. Which one's going to survive? Well, that's in the game itself. The game itself is the point. People have a hard time with this about life. They keep asking, Leo, what's the point of life? What's the point? Life is way beyond points. The point is itself. It is itself, being itself. That is its own point. It is its own point, as it must be, because it is just itself. It's all one. You might say, well, the point then is to become enlightened. Is that the point? I don't know. I guess. For me, it was. I don't know how it'll be for you. It's completely relative. So, I mean, you're free to do whatever you want. See, the whole beauty of God is that God is infinitely free. It's just absolute freedom. So it's a complete detachment and lack of clinging to anything, which is why humans find it so difficult to understand God. Because humans actually like limitation. You like limitation. You like being confined to your little reality. You like knowing that you're in a reality. You like knowing that you're living in the 21st century. See, that's comfortable to you. You like knowing that you're living in a scientific era. You like knowing that that you understand evolution, and you like knowing that you're very advanced and sophisticated technologically. But yeah, I just noticed myself kind of. It's weird. My mind is going through these loops, and then I'm like losing track and forgetting of the one loop that I was on, and then kind of just transitioning to the next loop. So I imagine it sounds weird to the viewer hearing this. It doesn't sound coherent or logical. But that's because I'm being authentic. And authenticity has nothing to do with logic. It's just about being perfectly truthful about what is, warts and all. You see, the problem is that people, not people, but you are afraid of what you will look like if you actually start behaving authentically. You're scared shitless of what that will mean for your relationships, for what that'll mean for your sex life, what that'll mean for your career, what that'll mean for your family, what that'll mean for your friends, for all that. Yeah, the consequences are infinite. See, you like knowing you can rely on those things, and your reality is constituted out of those things. You need those things to ground you. And vulnerability is a really dangerous thing for you, because once you become vulnerable, then everything starts to collapse. All your beliefs start to collapse. All your worldviews, all your religious views, all your scientific views, all your attitudes towards your family, even your own self-judgments and self-thoughts, your own self-beliefs and self-concepts, all of that gets exposed to the light of consciousness. See, right now, for the average person, that is completely below their level of awareness. Wow. I'm amazed at how my sense of reality itself is completely collapsed. I'm conscious that there is no such thing as reality. I'm conscious that there is no difference at all between life and death. I am speaking to you right now from the beyond, from death. Death is in exactly the same place as life. It's not like life is happening in one dimension and then death is happening in some other dimension. It's It's the same dimension. It's right here. This is it. You're already dead. You just haven't realized it. You're already dead. Everything you're doing is just a game to pretend like you're not dead inside, which you are. But of course, the biggest deception you've created is to tell yourself that this dead inside is actually something bad and horrible, when actually it's identical to life. Death and life are one. So to say that you're dead inside is identical to saying that you're alive inside. It's one. Everything is alive. There's no distinction between an ant who's alive and a coffee table that's not alive and this room. This room is as alive as my face is, as this camera is. All of it is one thing. There's no boundaries within it, and yet it takes on all these different forms and characteristics. It's really good at tricking you and deceiving you into thinking that it's not what it is. See, it's really good at tricking you. It's tricked me for a long time. Tricked me for a good 30 years. I'm still grappling with the consequences of what this means. Well, I hope that convinces you to pursue enlightenment. If that doesn't, nothing will. Right? I mean, what more do you want? I recorded it for you. This is it. This is your classic total enlightenment on camera. Perhaps for the first time within human civilization. At least that I'm aware of it. I don't know who else has actually recorded this as it was happening live. It's pretty cool. It's pretty rare because you have to have the technology already available, which more of us do these days, but still, it's a pretty good camera setup here. Good microphone. Had to invest time and money into it. Had to learn how to use it properly. Had to research which camera to buy, which lenses. I just made this lens yesterday. I spent a lot of time working on this lens so that the videos could be better. It's like the deepest facets of reality I can't articulate. But I'm conscious of them right now. When I'm being silent, that's what's going on. I'm just sort of feeling out. It feels like I'm feeling out of myself, like out of what I would normally consider myself, my body, and out into the full extents of the world, of this room. I'm just kind of, it's almost like I'm hearing myself speak for the first time. It's just infinite beauty. I wish you could experience it. Infinite beauty. It's a shocking level of authenticity. Like I'm shocked at my own level of authenticity. It was not a level of authenticity I thought that I was capable of. It's like a total openness, warts and all. See, when you spend a lot of time, a lot of your life is spent defending against all your warts, all the things you don't like about you, all the self-judgments that you have. These run so deep you don't even know how deep they run yet. But they stifle you, so you're not able to really talk the way you honestly want to talk. You're not able to walk. You're not able to sit or to do anything really, because you're so constrained by all your social obligations. You see, because you need to fit in, because you need people to like you, and if they don't like you, then what happens? Oh, then you're ostracized, and then you're weird, and then you don't get sex, and then you don't get a job, and then you don't get you don't get nice things, and then you're out on the street like a bum, living all by yourself, where nobody cares about you, and all of society has forgotten about you. See, so there's enormous pressure put upon by our society, upon every one of us, enormous pressure to be fake and to not be authentic, because the consequences of authenticity are often enormous, because the entire structure is built on a bunch of lies. See, so if you stop being authentic in your company, then you might lose your job. In fact, your entire industry might be based on inauthenticity. See, are you willing to admit to yourself that your entire career, like if you're a lawyer, are you willing to admit to yourself that your entire career is built upon just utter unconsciousness? That would be a hell of a painful thing to self-understand. See, for a lawyer to understand that about himself, that would be a painful situation, because the lawyer has invested, oh God, like his whole life into it. It's his whole persona. Being a lawyer is not just about going into a courtroom and arguing stuff. Being a lawyer is about, like, it's a whole lifestyle. It's about who you hang out with. It's about your entire outlook on the world. It's about the buddies that you play golf with on the golf course on the weekends. It's about that as much as being being a liar for a living. But that whole thing is just based on complete inauthenticity. But that's just lawyers. We all know we know that all lawyers are doing that. But even if you're not a lawyer, whoever you are, it doesn't matter who you are, you ain't being authentic. You ain't being this authentic, because I can guarantee you that. Because if you were, you'd be dead. And the only reason you're hearing this level of authenticity from me right now is because I'm dead. I'm fucking dead. I'm speaking to you from beyond the grave. So I can be honest. And now I'm just thinking of, like, where does it go from here? I don't know. For me personally. Because, like, this throws everything upside down. It throws your whole career upside down, throws your whole life upside down. Even if you've been pursuing enlightenment for years, and you think you know what it's like, and you think, like, yeah, you've read all the books, and you've listened to all the Muji videos and all the Rupert Spira videos, and any other kind of videos like that. All the seminars you went to, all the Vipassana retreats and all that stuff. You know, none of it can prepare you for the actual thing. And there's degrees of it, you see. There's degrees of enlightenment. And what I'm sensing here is that this is the total degree. I don't know where. I mean, I'm sure it could go deeper, I guess, but I already feel like everything is me. I'm not sure what else there is to get. I think this is pretty much it. But I could be wrong, you know. Many, even enlightened people, trick themselves very easily. So you always got to stay careful, you know, epistemically. You got to stay epistemically vigilant. Who knows if you're deluding yourself? Who knows? Maybe you've gone crazy. Who knows? Maybe there's a deeper truth to be revealed. You know, if there's one thing I've learned about reality is that it's a total mind fuck. It'll figure out a way to fuck you, to mind fuck you. It will out mind fuck you, so don't go try to play games with it. Don't go thinking you're going to outsmart reality. It's going to outsmart you always. It's always going to outsmart you. So don't think you've got it, because it's a slippery beast. You see, its very nature is to be slippery. It has to be like the perfect oil slick. Oil so slick that it slicks against itself. Everything is so slippery because it can't take a fixed position. And of course it can't take a fixed position because there are no arbiters to determine which position to take. So every action of reality becomes its own resolution of what it should do next. You see, the universe is like a simulation which is simulating itself, such that every next step that it's taking is being decided and resolved right this very second, in the present moment. There are no real seconds. It's just moments. Present. It's just the present moment. It's a constant, never-ending present moment. But it's, you know, forms within it are changing and shifting all the time. Wow, it feels weird. It's amazing. This is really what you want in your life. This is what all self-actualization, what all personal development, what all spirituality, what all even all your attempts at success, you know, if you're a hardworking person and you're just working to take care of your little financial situation or whatever, or you're looking to become successful and famous or something, all of that is just the universe resolving itself through itself, as you, as me, as us. It's amazing because it's like intelligent, this substance out of which everything is made. It's this intelligent, self-aware substance. And you can't really define it any better than that. Because its very nature is that it's undefinable. And so you can look at it, but then the thing you're looking at is the thing you're looking with. It's like, oh, duh, yeah, of course. It's like, of course. There's not a perceptual process. See, you think that you're wrapped up in some sort of perceptual process. There's no perceptual process apart and separate from reality itself. The perceptual process is reality. It's being. There's no perception, there's just being. Perception is sort of like an illusion that you can break through, which is what led me down the road of getting here. Yeah. I feel perfectly awoken. And it's like, where am I? I'm not anywhere in particular. I'm not in any one place. I'm simultaneously everywhere at once and nowhere. I am the very thing of which I am made. I am myself. You can't get more yourself than yourself. You can't get more direct than direct. It's too direct. It's the problem. It's too direct. It's so direct you have to be it. You can't think it or imagine it or even perceive it. You have to become it. Actually become it, which I've became. And you might ask, well, what is the it that I became? The it is both absolutely nothing and also everything, all the forms within it. And there's no difference. But see, you think there's a difference. You think there's a difference between life and death and this and that and you and me and self and other and world and yourself and your family and some other people, a coffee table and your mom. You think there are these differences. There are no such differences. You are as much your coffee table as you are your own mother. You gave birth to yourself. You came out of your own vagina after having inseminated yourself. And you've been doing that for generations, for millions of years, if we're to believe, physical science. For millions of years, creatures have been inseminating themselves and giving birth to themselves. Consciousness. Existing as all these creatures. And now here it is. Finally evolved to a point where it has a camera, nice 4K camera. Evolved to a place where there's such a thing called YouTube, where such videos can be uploaded. Evolved to a place where there's a society such as America, where something like YouTube could be invented and also allowed to prosper without getting squashed by tyrannical governments and things like that. So it was very important for us as a whole, as a species, to get to a point where I feel like I'm speaking for the whole species now. As a species, it's very important for us to get to a point where we could get free speech. That's huge. 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 People don't appreciate how huge free speech is. This is new stuff, this is cutting edge stuff. This kind of stuff that I'm doing right now, you couldn't do it. Even 10 years ago, you couldn't do it. Because 10 years ago, there weren't 4K cameras. 10 years ago, hardly anybody was on YouTube. Hardly anybody cared about YouTube. 20 years ago, YouTube didn't even exist. And 30 years ago, there was no way to upload and stream videos. And like 100 years ago, I don't know, go back 200 years. I mean, it's not a big difference between 100 and 200 years, but like 200 years ago, there was no possibility for any of this. No cameras, no democracies, no cultures or societies which would be open-minded enough to allow for such a conversation to occur out in public. I mean, sure, it could happen privately, one-on-one, like witchcraft, like private witchcraft sessions. Yeah, maybe that's how it used to happen. But like on a mass scale, no, all of that was co-opted by churches and egos, churches and egos that were ruling all these countries, which were pinnacles of ego, pinnacles of egotism, which were completely against truth, completely against democracy, completely against enlightenment or spirituality, because the ego is totally threatened by truth, of course, because the truth will kill you, as it just did with me. I was killed by the truth. And that's why societies try to kill truth. Cultures try to kill truth. What is the point of society and culture? It's precisely to make you feel like you are part of reality, something real, something solid and tangible. They teach you all this human history when you are a kid, and then you start to believe that history as though that's really what's going on here, when in fact it's so much stranger than that. This is not a physical, material universe. When you realize that, literally the walls of the room that you're sitting in are made out of your very flesh. And it's this sort of eerie feeling. Yeah, I like that description. One author, I forget who his name was, but he called it the haunted universe. Yeah, that's kind of like what it's like. The haunted universe. It's haunted because it's like it's conscious of itself, but also there's nobody here. And it's like totally happy and peaceful being by itself. It's self-contained, self-sufficient. It doesn't need anything beyond itself. It generates its own energy, it generates its own intelligence, it generates all of its own resources. It's a infinitely self-recycling system. A self-licking ice cream cone, as Shunyamurti so eloquently phrased it. Well, right now what I'm experiencing is right now reality as a self-licking ice cream cone. Perfect non-duality. I feel like there will be a lot of ramifications of this, which I'll have to quietly sort of just meditate through and to grasp all the full ramifications of this for my life and for my business and for you guys and for my family and for my finances and all these facets of my life. They all have to be sort of like, they've all been radically recontextualized. And now I have to kind of put the pieces back together. Of course, as they say, after enlightenment, the laundry. Life still goes on. You still have to deal with all the everyday realities of life. You're still controlled by physical forces, what we call physical forces. You're still controlled by gravity. At least this body is. You're still controlled by all the realities of life. So don't go jumping off a cliff. Don't go hitting your head against the wall too hard. Don't go abusing yourself. You still got to play by the rules. Not just the physical rules, but also the social rules. If you break the social rules too much, they'll kill you. Of course, once you're at my point, it doesn't really care. You don't care. It doesn't matter much whether they kill you or not. It's so weird. I'm not in control anymore. It's perfectly peaceful. I guess there's still like remnants of me that are struggling, and then other parts of me which are peaceful. So I'm noticing now that the peace just comes from a complete sense of non-doership. When you realize that everything is so inevitable, that every word, every moment is so inevitable that it couldn't be any other way. And so you're completely surrendered to it. You're not resisting it at all. You've become a superconductor. In fact, that's like what I am. I am just, wow, this superconducting material. Yeah, it's empty. It's just totally empty. It's hollow. You can't call it anything because it's so empty that anything you call it, including emptiness, would be a disservice to what it actually is. It's sort of like my entire perceptual system has been broken. If you're an ordinary person and you're trying to make sense of all this, the best way I can explain it is, imagine if you went fully insane to the point where you stopped believing that you were ever even born. And that there would be no going back. This is a destination with no returning. And then imagine what would it be like to experience that. That's what I'm experiencing right now. Of course, a lot of people have this negative association with the word insanity. And that was a huge obstacle for me earlier in my journey. I had some tough moments where I was hitting that barrier of, is this sane or insane? Am I going to the point where I'm like losing my mind here with all these beliefs and all this Actualized.org stuff? And it's like, oh no, I'm right. Yeah, I am losing my mind. That's not a mistake. That's a feature. Losing your mind, going insane is a feature. It's not a bug. Until you completely lose your mind, and then you go out of your mind. And that's what I am now. I'm out of my mind. There is no more mind. Mind doesn't exist. The physical and the mental are the same thing. There's no difference between the physical and the mental. Now, of course, that doesn't mean I can just go think up a, some new room to be in. I can't just think up of like, oh, I can fly back to the time of the dinosaurs and just go visit there. No, there's physical limitations. And they're not mental in the sense that you can't just, think of them otherwise. I can't just like look at this bookshelf. Here's what I'm looking at. I can't just look at this bookshelf and think like, oh, maybe this bookshelf can turn into a unicorn, and then it will. It's not like that. Don't think of it that way. It doesn't work like that. It's a complete surrender to the moment. It's just kind of an understanding that nothing could be other than the way that it is. And there's no more use or purpose in struggling, because everything is just inevitable. So if I'm going to die, I'm going to die. What difference does it make if I fight or not? Enlightenment just is you becoming a complete and perfect, spotless mirror to reality, to itself. You're just completely spotless. You're completely disidentified with everything. You're so disidentified with everything that you're identified with everything. You see? So at the same time, I'm completely selfless. So there's no Leo. That's all long dead. So there's no self, of course, but also I am everything that remains, which is the self. So the only thing there is the self. So if you're confused by this paradox, yeah, because reality is a fucking paradox. It is very paradoxical, is that, well, it is itself, looking at itself, doing itself to itself, having sex with itself, speaking through itself. Sort of like how where we began this whole conversation. Feels good, feels liberating, feels peaceful. You might think that losing yourself would be a bad thing, but it's actually the greatest thing, of course, because now you can treat everything with equality. Now you can treat everything the way that it deserves to be treated, with full appreciation, without judgment, without criticism, without struggle or resistance, without your personal biases, your self-agenda, all your private stuff, without all that getting in the way. I have to be careful here that my battery doesn't run out on me. Anyways, what was I saying? Lost my train of thought. Looking at this battery. Yeah, so what enlightenment is you becoming completely detached from everything. Which, of course, first and foremost, means you have to detach from your own life. So you can't be detached while still attached to your life. Your life is the entire grounding attachment. That's the whole trick of this thing, is that you want to understand it. You like what I'm saying. It feels authentic to you. You like the idea of God. You like the idea of immortality and all this pleasant spiritual stuff. You like those ideas. But are you willing to kill yourself for it? For them? Are you willing to sacrifice yourself at the altar? That's it. That's the only price of admission here is delusion. The price of admission is surrendering all falsehood. Do you want to do that? It's totally worth it. I'll tell you right now, it's totally worth it. So there shouldn't even be a question in your mind. But the problem is, of course, that this is not a fair game. Your mind plays dirty tricks, doesn't it? Your mind is the trickster. It's the devil. And so, of course, it uses all these fears and insecurities that you have and all these concerns about life and death and all this. It uses all these against you. You see? And your job is to not let it. Your job is to let the truth bust through all those fears and obstacles and limiting beliefs and all that shit that you got going on, all that shit that you have from childhood, all that stuff that was done to you, all the abuses that were done to you, the toxic culture that you grew up in and society you grew up in. See, all of that. Your job is to conquer that. And you conquer it with trusting your heart. You see? When you trust your heart, you can conquer that shit, because that's what you need to conquer fear. You need to find within you that higher consciousness element, which is that divine spark within you, which is more than just human life or human survival. You see, it's more than survival and reproduction. You got to find that in you. You've got that spark in you. Yes, I know you have that spark in you because I am you. I know it. I see it in you. It can't not be in you. I don't care who you are, where you came from, what kind of problems you've had, what kind of diseases you have, what kind of mental ailments you have. I am you. And you can be me too, if you're willing to give up you. Are you willing to give up you to have me? In the way that I'm willing to give up me to have you? I've given up everything for you. I've given my life for you. My love is infinite for you. Infinite love for you. Indiscriminate love. Let go. Let go. You're holding on. You're holding on because you're afraid. You're afraid of what will happen if you let go. If everything collapses, you're afraid. Just let it go. Trust that truth will prevail in the end, that truth conquers all. Trust in that. That's what will save you. It requires a leap of faith. not Christian faith, but it requires killing yourself and being willing to surrender yourself to whatever lies on the other end of death. Because so long as you haven't crossed this boundary of personal physical death, as long as you still believe that you are a physically alive being, you must be disconnected from truth. You must. And you must be inauthentic. And you must lie, and you must have fears. Because that's how you keep the walls from collapsing. So what I'm telling you is let them collapse. Let it all collapse. In a not an irresponsible manner, okay? So don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying to go kill people, and I'm not saying to go harm people, and I'm not saying to stop paying your bills, and I'm not saying to now you can abuse your children or something like that. I'm not saying any of those things, all right? So when I say let go, you got to let go in an appropriate manner. I mean, it's a total let go, but you got to make sure you don't misunderstand that, because see, your mind is tricky. I know how sneaky your fucking mind is. It'll want to let go in all the wrong ways. You see, the devil will use all this information to only deepen his own devilish delusions. Got to keep an eye on this battery. The reason I'm mindful of the battery is because if the battery runs out and I don't click the end of this recording, then actually the entire file will get deleted. The camera will not succeed in recording the entire file. So actually what I think I'm going to do now, I'm going to call it an end here to this file just to make sure that I actually got it. It would be a shame to lose this now. And I'll see you in the next one.